Spain. Pizzolato Antonino Pizzolato. Maurus James, United States of America.
Oftentimes, the exposure or publicising of battles within weightlifting is limited to just the top 2 or perhaps 3 athletes in a weight class. The battles are centred around medals, usually the gold, and as a result, the narrative surrounding competitions focuses on a limited number of athletes, the athletes who lift after everyone else. And it's easy to see why this is the case, because as the weight gets heavier, fewer and fewer athletes remain in the competition. And as a result, you often see the top 2 or 3 lifters going back and forth. Picking out the direct challenges between 2 lifters when there are no other lifters adding to the noise and distraction is easy to do. But the problem is we often miss some incredible battles hidden within the pack. We just assume that the battle between gold and silver was the most fierce, but that's not always the case. Sometimes the battle for 4th or 6th or 7th is actually more interesting. If we were to locate and extract just the 2 or 3 athletes who are battling for one of these other positions, we would realise that there are competitions within competitions, and great stories hidden within. At the 2019 World Championships, for example, if you were to single out Harrison Maurus and Antonino Pizzolato, you would see an exciting battle between them. If the lifters who ultimately outlifted them were not there, we might be talking about their epic battle. At Worlds, 4 months prior to this competition, Harrison snatched poorly, going 1 for 3, falling behind Antonino, who went 3 for 3. But in the clean and jerk, it was Antonino who went 1 for 3, and Harrison who outlifted him with 198 kilos to 195 kilos. Ultimately, we were all so focused on the medal spots that the only role that Harrison really played in the overarching story of the 81s was his injection of a 3rd attempt at 205 kilos, separating the final few attempts between Liu Xiaojun and Li Dayin, who were ultimately the main characters in the story of that weight class. Many times now, Harrison and Nino have had tremendous competitions, occasionally even medaling in major senior international meets. Harrison taking bronze at the 2017 World Championships, as well as at the 2019 Pan Am Games, and then of course many golds at youth competitions. And Nino, who also snuck a bronze medal at the same World Championships in 2017, though in the heavier 85 kilo class, as well as a bronze at his 2019 Continental Championships in Georgia. Despite the talent from the rest of the competition, at the Roma World Cup, both Harrison and Nino were able to be the 2 that shaped the story of the competition, as it was those 2 who were fighting for all 3 golds. Harrison, the physically stronger, more talented younger athlete, and Nino, the older, more experienced, and technically better lifter. So, heading into this competition, Harrison's best snatch was 160 kilos in training, though in competition it was 157 kilos. Antonino, however, had hit 160 kilos or more 4 times in competition, with his personal best of 163 kilos just 4 months earlier at the World Championships, a competition in which Harrison had only made 150 kilos. I'll let the snatches play out for you to watch, but just to note, I had one camera set up at the side of the platform as well as another camera and a phone in my hands, hence some of these shakier shots. That's also why you can see me in some of the shots as well, as I'm on the other side of the stage with the other cameras. It's also worth noting, just for context, that this was in Rome, Italy's capital, and so there was a tremendous amount of pride and hype built up for Antonino Pizzolato. And this 158 kilo snatch, a competition PR attempt for Harrison. So, Antonino took a 2 kilo lead over Harrison into the clean and jerk. A nice stat for you. Just prior to this competition, Harrison had jerked 214 kilos in training. That's 7 kilos over the world record held by Lu Xiaojun. At the time, this was something that Antonino couldn't do. But funnily enough though, just a few months ago, so around 5 months after this competition, Antonino jerked 215 kilos in training, the most we know of from any current 81, except of course for Nijat Rahimov, who clean and jerked 217 in training prior to the 2016 Olympic Games in the old 77 kilo class. Ultimately, in weightlifting and all sports, we, the fans, like stories. And that's why we like battles. And the more context to a battle and the more hype built up around athletes, the more that we can engage. I think that's why continental championships, as well as smaller events like this, are so useful, because we get to see other main characters rise to the top. One other thing to mention quickly, I've uploaded a full training session with Harrison, complete with commentary, to the Weightlifting House Patreon page. It was his final heavy day before this competition. I'll put a link in the description for you. Much like with other battles that I've uploaded, whether it's Mezzo vs Rostami or Pliesnoy vs Bodhi, both Harrison and Antonino fell into a rhythm of back and forth, one after the other, semi-respectfully waiting for the other person to lift before they lift. But occasionally they get out of sync, and when they do, I think we're seeing someone almost challenging the other. Not a physical, direct lift-off, I mean that's what the competition is for, but almost a mental challenge. A message to the other that they aren't even aware of the other person, that they're just lifting when they want to lift. I love that stuff. I don't know what happened there exactly. I think he was waiting for the lifter on the platform to start their lift, so as not to break the silence for them, out of respect. But then that almost forced him to lift during the space between the other lifters' clean and jerk, which they ultimately missed. Alternatively, he might have just pulled it badly. You might be wondering why Harrison didn't just take 198 kilos for the win. Well, sometimes the battles that we create a narrative around don't actually exist. I pitched this whole thing as Harrison versus Antonino. The reality of it was that it was Harrison versus Harrison. It was Harrison trying to get more Roby points in order to rank higher for Olympic selection. Before the competition started, I spoke with his coach, Spencer Arnold. The plan was never to go up against Nino. Beating him would just be a nice benefit to the real goal of beating himself, beating all of his previous performances. 200 kilos would have given him a 358 kilo total, 1 kilo more than his best. So on this day, Harrison lost and Antonino won, but they were competing in different battles.